The number one reason why people don't become who they want to be is because they've grown too attached to who they've become. Change is a mountain sometimes, but change amid and from addiction is a mountain without a map. But change is necessary if one is to rise above the state of substance use disorder. In the midst of the worst public social health crisis America's ever seen, and with more people becoming affected by addiction than ever before, one has to wonder where we go from here. How do we overcome this pandemic? How will we avoid losing an entire generation of people? When will we have a system of care and an evidence-based approach that's void of profit-focused care, absent the fraud and lacking the siloed, splintered remedies that permeate the treatment world? When will we stop telling people that relapse is a part of recovery? When will America treat this issue with the attention it deserves? When will we stop looking for a chemical solution to a spiritual problem? When will we stop looking for the answer in more drugs when the answer is in connection, coping skills, and self-fulfillment? These are all great questions, but at times, I wonder if they're rhetorical. I wonder if the questions even have answers. I wonder if the questions aren't answers themselves. And with so many people asking these questions, are there more contradictory answers than shared answers? Is perception and interpretation getting in the way of what will work for most people? I often hear now that there are many pathways to recovery, that people find recovery on different journeys. I often hear recovery defined in so many different ways. It really puzzles me. How can recovery be a matter of interpretation? A recent recovery coach trainer stated that someone is in recovery when they say they're in recovery. What? How can we accept an addict whom we accept is incapable of rational thought define their own recovery? How can we define recovery differently for different people? When did it change from becoming completely free of all mind and mood-altering substances? They say addiction is a disease. The disease of addiction. That's one of the most controversial subjects, social topics we've ever come up with. We try to change social perception of addiction. We try to educate society about this being a brain illness and set out to smash the proverbial stigma. We try to convince people that addiction is not a choice, that it's a disease from which there's no known cure. And to many people, that sounds like addicts are victims. And I don't know if that's the right approach. I mean, the disease concept became divisive in the solution, and it's more misunderstood than ever before. I want to believe that we're making more progress than ever, but the increasing number of people affected does not support my hope. And the escalation of the social rhetoric in the comment sections of newspapers, in articles on addiction, continue to fuel the division. Victim stance, ladies and gentlemen, is the most damaging and devastating, self-defeating mindset in our country. And for those caught up in addiction, and often as a result, the criminal justice system, it's more commonplace to simply blame the world. My parents got divorced when I was a little kid. I was abused. I was sexually abused. I grew up poor. My drug-dealing sibling gave it to me. My friends turned me on to it. I've heard them all. I've used many of them myself. It was when someone told me that I was inviting more problems into my life, then I started to change. He told me, cancel my membership to the Woe Is Me Club. It was some of the best advice that I had ever received. I don't know that this mindset can actually change everything for everyone, but so many people I see caught up in addiction, they don't see their way out through their own power. And we have absolutely minimized the power in self. What you don't want to hear is more than likely what you need to face. The truth is already in you. The validation just forces you to no longer deny it. I learned this recently, both from self-reflection and by giving the advice to someone that I mentor in early recovery. The lesson came from both sides, and learning it both ways doubled its impact on me. I want to solve this addiction pandemic more than ever, and I ask myself how it can be done. The point I make at this point is that none of these questions can be asked by themselves without consideration of the other. No group in society is going to come up with the same answer for each and every question. That doesn't mean that we can't have the same shared goals. But without collaboration rising from antagonism, without partnerships over disassociation, without unity in our shared goals, I don't know how we can see the end to this addiction pandemic. Do we want to become a society free from addiction? I mean, is that even possible? We're at a point in our history where life expectancy is actually decreasing faster than at any time on record, and it's preventable. Despair deaths, like alcoholism and drugs and suicide, are a big part of the problem, and so is obesity, poverty, social isolation. It's absolutely not just about opioids and heroin and fentanyl. The headlines mislead America, and the groups that pop up titled Fight Heroin and Fight Fentanyl and Stop Opiates are missing the forest for the trees. If we are to answer the many questions that I pose, if we are to cease this preventable decline and the decrease in mortality, if we are to become a nation that doesn't destroy itself from within, I imagine we must face not only the problems, but face ourselves. We must ask ourselves not only some of these questions, but all of these questions. The real question is, are there answers that we want to face?